You guys, we have got to talk about the canceled podcast girls because Brooke and Tana have sat down once again to talk about the fact that people think that they hate each other online, and they wanted to clear up that they don't hate each other. And it really seems like the internet comments and hate towards Brooke is the reason why the podcast is coming to an end. And though they originally said that they were seeing their contract through, it sounds like they will only be continuing for 6 or 5 or so episodes, and they will be ending that contract early. So we're gonna get into what exactly they had to say in this new episode of Canceled. Tana and Brooke have stayed in the YouTube headlines recently as people debate whether they hate each other or not, and if that's the real reason why Canceled is coming to an end. A couple weeks ago, Tana surprised fans by talking about them ending the podcast while on Logan Paul's podcast. Then her and Brooke talked about it more on an episode titled Why the Canceled Podcast is Ending. People thought that this was the last episode or something, but upon watching it, they said that after their contract was up at the end of the year, they would be going their separate ways, explaining that they just have different ideas for content they want to do and that they are different people than when they first started. People assumed there was beef between them and that they just didn't like each other anymore, and that was the real reason as to why it was coming to an end. But Tana and Brooke have both denied that to be the case, and in a recent episode, Amari also spoke with the girls to say that that was not the case. The girls have now once again sat down to talk about those rumors going around that they hate each other, once again denying it. But this week, Tana said that she did not want to see the contract through anymore like originally planned. She talked about this further in the podcast titled The Truth About Canceled Ending, where she got emotional about the fact that she really isn't happy and she doesn't want to see that contract through to the end of the year.
I don't know. I think that I was looking at the embodiment of strength being like seeing this contract through. And I came to the conclusion that like, I don't want to see this contract through. Mm-hmm. And then I go online and I see all these edits of us like once just like so.
Dude, the one that, you know, the one.
Yeah, because it's like, it was that, and that is the truth.
Tana just talked about the fact that she was not looking forward to coming back to LA to film the podcast after having been in Hawaii, and that this just isn't something she wants to be doing.
Seeing people say the most vile shit, I think I needed that like stark contrast of being in Hawaii and really thinking about my life and going from peace for it to be so black and white for me. Like now I have to come home and I have to sit on this couch and I have to talk about all these things that like I don't want to talk about, just to like further a conversation to then have more like, you know what I mean? Just like this.
Yeah, to invite more of what you're trying to get away from. And
Tana also talked about the fact that when her and Brooke sat down a few weeks ago to discuss how they were feeling about the podcast, that it might have helped them or something, but it did the complete opposite.
First thing that sucks is I honestly really thought that when we filmed that episode, and like, forgive me, I'm like literally panic central over here, but when we filmed that episode where we were talking about how it's coming to a close in the fall, I genuinely, and this is just some finger off the pulse, thought it would make things better. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean.
Obviously, it just didn't. And like the internet is so much right now. And like I've really been like so off my phone in Hawaii and like so happy. And then like the day before I had to leave, I opened my phone and like really got on it and started thinking about the things I had to do. And like thinking about coming to do this podcast. And like I was just like so overwhelmingly sad.
Tana talked about how it isn't this whole thing that the internet has made it, and it's just sad that something that used to be so fun has turned into this negative. And her and Brooke just wanted to clarify that when they talked about doing the podcast being hard, they didn't mean the task of sitting down and filming for an hour. They just wanted to clear up that it really takes a mental toll on them, seeing comments and people pick them apart, and it's like that aspect that is difficult.
This is the most,
easy and privileged, like
easy job in the world. Sitting down for an hour, that part of it is easy. Talking to each other, that part of it is easy. Like I love that aspect of the job. It is mentally just so exhausting and taxing, and like it's impossible to understand if you haven't experienced it, in my opinion.
Tana just isn't under the impression that anything can be done to salvage the podcast as of right now to make it so that it isn't this sort of drama, and it's why she doesn't want to see their contract through, because she is just so unhappy in the world of Canceled.
I'm so drama free, and that's what I want to be. You know what I mean? And it's just like, unfortunately, I don't think there's any world where anything can be like rebranded or repaired to be genuinely just drama-free and happy.
There's no world where like anything just gets better like that. Like it's gonna take like time and stepping away. And
I also think that it's obviously, I've always said you and I have undeniable chemistry, and I'm so excited to showcase that in different ways. But I just like, yeah, this commitment and this world, the world that around canceled is just no longer for me. And I have to just like radically accept it. And I think that I'm realizing that strength for me is like putting my foot down and ending it. And like, yeah, I don't know. It does make me, you know, like sad and nostalgic and stuff. Like
Brooke, on the other hand, isn't 100% ready to let it go like Tana, but she says she's trying to look at this in a positive light.
it's like I'm trying to look at it again as a positive, which I know for a lot of people it's not a positive. And like it's not a positive for me either. It's not a positive for you, but like so much comes of letting go of things, like especially like before you necessarily feel you're 100% ready. I know you feel 100% ready. I feel a little bit more apprehensive, obviously.
it's not that. I think that I wrestled with it. You know, I was trying, like I'm saying, I think I was thinking that the embodiment of strength was staying in the contract and seeing it through. And then I think that I had to realize it's so easy to stay in something that you know so well. But I no longer feel at home in this in the way that I did for so long. I just have no choice. Like, you know what I mean? Like I have no choice.
It does sound like the comments and the negativity from the comments Brooke gets, or people speculating on them, has created this negative energy around the podcast for them. And it just doesn't make Tana want to continue fully. And Brooke agrees. And it does sound like for the sake of their relationship, they feel it's best to end things.
And forgive me, but like she is a person that you can make comments on and say all these things, but to me she's someone that I know and someone that I sat down like doing this for so long with, and someone that I want to see like flourish and thrive and get out of this rat race. I also just, I want that for us. I want to get coffee and laugh and like almost get back to so many ways that we were. And
Me too. I feel like it's, to me, I said this on another podcast today, but it's just like, thank you. Like no amount of, you know, money or whatever like there is to gain from like doing this is worth like what I feel like we've lost, you know what I mean? Like as a, I don't want to say like a consequence or like as a result of canceled, but like you're just like way more important to me than this. You know what I mean?
yeah, I agree. And I
love it. It's not about the people. I love.
No, 100%. It's just like,
It's almost like, it's like it feels to me like one big, like it's hard. I like almost personify. I've told you this before, but it's like, it's hard for me to see it as like some people and some people. Like I figure like this is what the common opinion is. And so that is what they think. Like, you know,
you're right. Because at this point, I think staying in it is so untrue to myself, because the only reason I would stay in it was to like reach a goal or for money or to like prove a point. Like all of the reasons that I would stay in it are dark.
Which Brooke also talked about this further on the Cheers podcast with Avery Woods, talking about why you shouldn't work with friends and such because it affects the dynamic.
We've kind of announced now that like I don't think we're going to keep going with it, at least for now. We've talked at least about taking like a big long break, if not ending it completely. I feel like both of us are very fatigued of it, kind of. I feel like both of us are in such different places than we were when we started, and it's just feels different now. It's not as fun for either of us anymore. At the very least, we'll probably take 6 months, a year off, and then maybe reassess. I don't think anybody should like work with their partner or friends or anything. And it's not that like it's a bad relationship. I love her more than anything. It just changes the dynamic of a friendship so much. Like I felt like we had a child, you know what I mean? And now like we can't even nurture this like marriage that we have because we're like so focused on this kid that we have instead of compare it to. But it really did change like the dynamics, so that I feel like that's a big element too. We want to be friends.
I think it's plain as day. Doing the podcast has affected their friendship. They aren't denying that. They're saying they don't hate each other. And I'm sure if they did, they would have ended the podcast in a full-on fight during Jortskate, or they would have ended it, I don't know, like anytime after that, because they can clearly get out of the contract early now. And I feel like if they really hated each other, they just would have like call her daddy styled it and like not come back to the table. But I think for the sake of them being friendly in the future and being able to hang out, what they're saying is that they need to end things right here, right now. Like the comments just seems to be what is ending the podcast, this negativity that is associated with their podcast. They want to be done with that. Like the negativity, especially towards Brooke, they want to be done with that.
Just no longer serving our growth.
It's definitely not good for my mental. None of this is good for my mental. You know what I mean? Like, I'm overwhelmingly mentally unstable with no outside influences. So adding, you know what I mean? Like all of that in on top of like what I already deal with is just like, I can make it work sometimes and I cannot make it work right now.
And I want you to be able to genuinely fuck your phone and it not be a part of your job and a part, you know what I mean? Like a part of your life, and then come and do the things that you want to do. And
in the description of the Spotify episode, it says Brooke and Tana discuss the podcast coming to an end in 6 episodes. So it seems that's how much longer these two have before they're officially wrapped on canceled. People are weighing in with fans hurt that the comments have ruined the podcast and brought it to an end. Some suggest that they don't have to talk about drama and pop culture on the show if they don't want it to be so negative, but it does seem that they are just over people picking them apart as people and how they talk to one another and stories they tell about one another, and they just need a reset on their friendship outside of the podcast and a reset on their public image. And it seems they're both agreeing that ending the podcast is the way to go about that. But that's what these two have had to say recently about the canceled podcast and why it's coming to an end sooner than the end of the year. Let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye, guys.